It's time to get it, and you know how we get it. Americano, the podcast about all things business and personal growth with your host, Eric Vonheim. Today, I would like to welcome Hershel Drums Abram to the show. How are you doing, Hershel?
I am fabulous. It's a beautiful day, and we are in the land of the living, my man.
Absolutely. In fact, where are you calling in from today?
I am calling in from La Jolla, California. It's a little overcast, but it's still beautiful like it is over where you are.
Absolutely. We are certainly blessed, my friend. So what I wanted to do is sort of get you on the call here today to sort of dive into some things that I've been very observant to, and I'm following you on social media, and I've gravitated towards your content. Certainly a little bit of background here for our listeners. I first had a great chance to meet you, the unique experience to actually meet you, but also hear you play your drum and your sort of gifts around the musical side of things, which we're going to dive into today. And I was just awestruck by your creativity and the energy that you brought. And then when I got a chance to kind of see that on social media and see how you sort of move through life, I was even more impressed because you got the music, but you also have this other side of you around just personal growth and spreading positivity and love and putting so much good energy out there. And I just sort of gravitate towards that. And I think it's definitely needed nowadays more than ever. And then you have this real rich giving thing that you do. I constantly see you out there helping those in need. And so I appreciate you being with us today. And I just wanted to dive into some of those topics. So with that said, maybe you can share with our listeners a little bit of background, like who is Hershel?
Yes, well, thank you first for having me. I always see your podcast and try and catch it when I can, and you're always full of light and positive energy, which it coincides with what I'm about as well. So, who is Hershel? Well, I am a person. I'm a lover of music. I think that's the easiest way to explain it. For me, growing up in a church setting as a church musician, I really got my roots there. I watched my brother play drums as a child, and that motivated me to want to figure out and wrap my mind around the world of drums. And I just felt like it always resonated with people. Like I play piano too, but drums just has a whole life of its own. And so I grew up playing in the church, and then, as I grew up, I just got into the production side of things and songwriting and things like that. And I was able to do some studio work and actually get my songs licensed with NBC Universal for a lot of their television shows. Okay. So doing that for quite a few years was a huge blessing, and great doors opened from that, and obviously the gigging and stuff that came along with it. But it's been a journey. It's been a fun journey because music is that universal language that just takes you all over the world.
Yeah, and it certainly brings people together, right? I'm sure that, and I'm sure you've traveled extensively. It's just one of those things. It's like food, right? Food, music, these bring people together.
Oh yeah. It's funny because traveling to different countries. I'm actually leaving on Thursday for a gig in Cancun over the weekend. But it's funny when you're playing music even in other languages. It really unifies people. We're just all one, and so it's a beautiful thing to see how music just penetrates the mind and soul and spirit.
Wow, I 100% agree. Who were some of your musical icons that you tended to gravitate towards when you were growing up that sort of inspired you, or was there that aha moment that you encountered when you were young where you said, I want to do that? What was that moment for you?
Well, I think that, I grew up in a very strict home. My parents didn't let me listen to the radio, but there were a few artists that I was able to sneak in the house. And one of those people was Stevie Wonder. He was a bright light. And as a pianist, being that I do still play piano, he just really resonated with me. The spirit on what he stood for, and then what he was able to manifest on stage, and how he was able to just capture people's soul and spirit and get people engaged and feeling the love. And so he was a huge instrumental role, and who I, wanted to be. I also, have a lot of family that are musicians that play for a lot of top 40 artists. They were great inspirations for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, on a bigger scale for performing wise, MJ's music, who wasn't impressed
Oh yeah.
with the sounds of MJ? And, vocalist wise, Celine Dion,
Yes.
is a huge inspiration to me. She's a perfectionist vocally. Whitney Houston, soulful experience, takes me back to those gospel roots. And
Mm-hmm.
so, a few of those people really, really kind of penetrated to my heart and really got me going and excited about this business.
Yeah, all of those are just incredible artists. I often, I'm a big sort of 80s genre. I mean, I love that decade. I love the 90s. And I feel like those 2 decades were just filled with such incredible talent, the music, the variety, the uniqueness. It was a time in which all the music put out had to be different. Nobody wanted to sound like each other, right? And so you just got these masterpieces that were put out there.
You remember Sweet Dreams, Annie Lennox? Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Now I'm playing it in my head right now.
I know. It's like it got me going. There's so much inspiration out there, and that's the beauty. Is all these artists, we're all expressing ourselves, and we're all gleaming off of one another. Each of us have a light, and we're all just gleaming off of each other's light. And when I met you at Allie's party, it was such a beautiful experience, and just had just a close knit people around, and it was just great and positive. And I remember you and your whole team were there celebrating and having fun, and I just saw nothing but smiles, and so it was a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, no, the feeling is mutual, and I mean, I think that's what really has brought us to this point in time. And I think it's interesting how the universe works, and it just tends, great people tend to gravitate towards one another. And then, what's interesting sometimes is that you put that energy out there that evening, right? And somebody like myself and others gravitated towards you, and they walked away with such a great feeling. And that's the type of activity that really sets the tone in people's lives, right? Is when we put good stuff out there, people are paying attention even when we don't think that they are. And they're looking for clues, and they're looking for norms. And so when we show that leadership, right, and we put that out there, I just have a feeling that it replicates itself and it manifests itself in different ways.
I totally agree. I mean, I like to think of myself as a mood director, and no matter what we specialize in, our specialty is specializing in relationships. We all have to manage relationships at the end of the day, whether you're a musician or you're a doctor. We have to manage relationships and know how to communicate effectively amongst different types of people. And I think that in the setting of celebrating and enjoying ourselves, it's one of those expressions through the drum that I think just really resonated that whole night.
100% agree with you, and I like that phrase, mood director. I think I might need to pay you a royalty and adopt that title immediately. Mood director.
Man, you can have it, brother. You can have it, man. Oh my God, you bring a lot of positive energy to people, so you can hold that title on your own.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. So peeling in, or sort of diving a little bit into the music industry in itself. So if I recall, I've seen you post some stuff around maybe streams and such. How does a musician nowadays in the world of the social media, the internet, SoundCloud, all these different streaming platforms, how does a musician such as yourself put their content out there and sort of make a living? Do you have any advice or tips for somebody that's an up and coming musician or been doing this for a while that could benefit from some things that you've learned?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that, one of the easiest things to do nowadays, you have home studios are very popular. Pro Tools rigs, you can get those pretty affordable for your starter rigs. But I think if you are a songwriter, producer, singer, musician that's looking to get your stuff out there, I think one of those platforms is iTunes. It's universal, global,
okay.
It's everywhere. SoundCloud is another great one. But to sell, getting in on iTunes, Tidal, some of those platforms will get you to get to all those other streaming venues. And, from there, it's just a matter of promotion and marketing. I always say that you have to be a great musician to articulate your skill and the essence of who you are, but you also have to be an equally as great business person, because you can be, the best talent, but no one in the world knows you, right?
Right.
And so you have to balance. It's a constant struggle. Am I wearing my business hat, or am I wearing my musician hat? And so you have to find that balance, or as a mentor of mine told me, it's really measured, because what is the true definition of balance, right?
Right.
So, it's one of those things that, it is easy once you start getting your music out there, but you do have to be cognizant and hyper focused on really how you are going to drive traffic, because at the end of the day, that's all it's about. It's about getting people to understand what it is you offer, what value proposition do you give to these people.
Yeah. You make a great point about not only being the creative as a musician, but being having that business acumen, right? I often think about Jay-Z. I think there was a lyric that he had where he said something to the effect, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman." And he remember that line, and he was really speaking to the fact that he's a brand in himself in a business. And I think recently he joined the Billionaires Club, which is phenomenal, right? Because
I saw that this morning. That's great news.
That's fantastic, because he figured out how to take his music, build some wealth, but then take that diversified in other brands. And then, the reality is he's also serving as an example for others that are looking to him for some clues on how to do it, right? And so just as you and I, as we put stuff out there, people are looking for clues, right? And so I love the fact that, you have those experiences, you share those experiences, and I find that to be true of a lot of entrepreneurs, regardless of the industry. They're always very helpful.
Yeah, no, and I think like one of the things that has really helped me in this business has been to continually being a student of my craft and of the industry, but also pushing myself out of my norm. And I think that, in all that each of us do, you don't find growth in your comfort, right? And you have to continually push yourself in those unknown areas, so you can learn different ways, different techniques, and fuse it into what you are great at. And so that's what I love about music. It's ultimate creativity, and it's ultimate expression. And at the end of the day, everyone wants to be understood. And as a musician, when I'm able to help people understand me and where I'm coming from, and it feels like I know them and they know me, that's what I walk away with at the end of the day. It's like we both understand each other, and we're both smiling at the end of the night. And that it's love. It's love brings us all together.
Absolutely.
Love the music.
So now I want to move on to a couple other topics that, again, I've been paying attention to with you specifically. And the second one is dealing around with like this personal growth and fitness. I find you somebody that to be very, obviously, very caring, very energetic, very action-oriented, making the most out of your day. I mean, I think you embody the YOLO, you only live once, you're out there doing it and getting it.
I'm trying to keep up with you, man.
Well, you see, for me, it's the Americano that feels, this is all synthetic. No.
No, I wish I could get into coffee. I drink no coffee, don't do any, I just juice. That's it.
I love it. Hey, good for you. Good for you. Hey, whatever our vice is. But in any case, what was the driver for you? Where did you get all this passion? I mean, was there some individuals in your family? Did you look to others? I mean, where does this come from? This upbeat, positive, demeanor that you have?
Well, I came from really great parents that were a great source of inspiration, not just for our family directly, but also for the community. My mother was a big advocate, within the state of California. My father was a pastor of a church. And so I constantly saw them, growing up, really pouring into other people, not just on a spiritual level, but even on a personal level, really encouraging them on a day-to-day basis. So I would like to say that, some of them rubbed off on me. I'm just not standing in front of a big church.
I see.
So for me, I think how it translates as an adult, for me, I'm always, as they say, find a need and fill it. And while there are many organizations that go out and do great things, people always say, well, the problem is bigger than one person, which is partially right. But the thing is we can all do something. And I always tell myself every day when I go out, what can I do to add value to someone's life? Even if it's on a small scale or if it's on a big scale, but what is it that I can do? And what I found and what I chose to do is we chose to give back. Every Wednesday. We feed about 150 to 300 people. It's not paid for by anybody. We fund it on ourselves. So me and a group of other entrepreneurs get together. Every Wednesday, we feed these people, which are the homeless, in downtown San Diego area. We've been doing it for the past 8 years, and it's really been an eye-opening experience. Some people are, happy about it. Some people ask, why do you do it? And I often tell people that, one of the motivating factors outside of the need being there is my dad told me a story when he grew up. His parents died young. He was poor and he had to beg people for food. He told me about a story where he had to knock on his neighbor's door, for bread and just basic essentials. And it resonated with me as an adult because I see so many kids that are out there on the street with their parents. Right. And that's the motivating thing for me. I don't feel that I'm crippling them. I feel that I'm encouraging them that there is something better outside of what we're providing. There are better resources which are inside of you and not the resources of the government, right? And so I look at it just as I inspire people through social media and music. I look at it as a pathway to getting inside their mind and heart so that they will want more for themselves. And that's through food and encouragement and other resources that we provide for them.
Wow. I applaud what you do. And again, I've seen you share this on social media time and time again. And it always serves as a constant reminder, even for myself, and I'm sure for those that follow you as well. And it's through those stories that you share, you're inspiring people to move in that direction and find ways that they can add value to. And I just think you're doing a great job on that front. As you share this story, yeah, absolutely. As you share this story about your work in San Diego over the last 8 years, I was reminded of a situation I saw one time in downtown where it was the evening time. I was walking around the downtown with a few friends, and I noticed a group of people. And I don't know if this is your organization. Maybe it is. Maybe you know them. But I recall seeing some people carrying or towing some of those red rider wagons, the red wagon. And inside the wagon, they had these big Gatorade sort of pitchers, if you will, the ones that you see in the Super Bowl, and they're dumping them over people. And they had hot water in there. And then so one wagon had hot water. The other wagon had some like cup of noodles and stuff. And they were going around and essentially providing hot cup of noodles for people that were homeless on the streets. Yeah, no, it wasn't necessarily our organization, but, there's so many great organizations out here. And the beautiful thing, one thing that we do on Thanksgiving Day is we will have barbers come down. We will have estheticians come down. And we will just really just try to, pour into some of these people who are a little down and out and really help them feel good for these holiday times. And so, it's really great because, my brother Ali, he does a lot of great work in downtown LA during the holidays. And, again, I only like to associate with people who are really just, trying to give back to others, because at the end of the day, there's enough people in the world who are self-absorbed, but let's join forces with people who are about giving. And my father always tells me this, Eric. He says, son, I've never known a giver to be broke. And when you're constantly pouring into other people and giving back, you always find it that you have exactly what you need. That is well said.
And mind you, I said exactly what you need. I didn't say exactly what you want, exactly what you need. And so at the end of the day, we're always going to have the things that we need
Hmm.
if we focus in on trying to help other people get what they need.
Absolutely. I'm as I'm listening to you to share this story, and especially with your parents, I'm just reminded about my own environment, and it's the same type of stuff that I saw, which was just this unconditional love, give more than you take in life. And
Yeah.
I just real quick reminded of a story. I used to live in Northern California, and I remember
Hmm.
specifically with my grandpa, we would I'd always want to go with him. He went shopping, and we don't come from a lot of money either, and we had we would go to Kmart. That's where my grandpa liked to do some of his shopping. And so I always
Hmm.
remember that every time inside this particular Kmart, there was like a substation type of place. And so we'd check out and he'd order a few sandwiches. And I always remember we'd walk out every single trip, and inevitably there'd be somebody that was homeless outside the building. He'd walk up and give them that meal and maybe some money or whatever, and say, here's some food. And it was just, and when you're young, you don't always see it. And sometimes that stuff
Right.
looks a little scary. Like, who are we? Who is this person? They don't look, and you just don't understand it as a child. But it was through that example, and then of course my parents as well, and little things like that. That over time, you start to come to appreciate the importance of giving, and just simply the importance of paying attention. There's so many people out there that just don't feel like they're seen or heard. I often walk into centers, and even somebody that's just sort of cleaning the center, I will make it a point to walk up to them and say hello and ask their name. And because, how many people are actually, talking to them? They might feel like
Right.
they're not even important, right? And so those little things, like you pointed out, are extremely important, and we can do this every single day. So I just applaud and appreciate the fact that you're out there as a champion and doing this, because I assure you, people are paying attention. I'm one of them, and they're hopefully emulating some of that behavior on their own.
Hey, we're here to inspire one another, and it's not just one person's efforts, but it's all of our efforts as a team. And the beauty of it is this unites all of us. I mean, look at us now. You sent me a message through social media and said, "Hey, let's talk. I haven't seen you since the thing," and I love all the positive stuff that you're doing out there in the community through marketing and stuff like that. And I was like, man, let's make it happen. And now we're on the phone, together talking on your podcast. So it's beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, brother. I really appreciate that.
No problem. No
So,
problem.
so before we move in, sort of the last set of questions here, how can people get involved in your charitable work in San Diego?
So I really try to make it easy for people. We don't ask for money, but we do like it for people to get involved, come down, and help us feed in line. So typically I tell people we feed on 15th and Island in downtown San Diego. It's a beautiful time. We have people from LA, Orange County, and local that come up to help from time to time. And so the beauty of it is all you need to do is just come up maybe 15 minutes before 6:30, so around 6:15,
Okay.
and we will kind of direct, you or other people who are interested in participating, and kind of give you a role for that evening. And we feed for an hour. Everything is real organized. We have security out there, so if anyone gets out of line, it's completely safe. Again, we've been doing it for the past 8 years, and it's been a beautiful experience of sharing and giving.
Well, you have my commitment. I'm going to make a trip down there. I definitely want to come experience this and get involved and assist in this in some ways. So you have my spoken word here that I will get involved for
Oh
sure.
no, I know you're good for it. So you are welcome anytime. And like I said, you will. It will be eye opening, but more
Hmm.
importantly, you're going to be so motivated to continue your success, so that you can continue giving back. And that's the beauty. It's that inner fire that's like, man, what else can I do to help somebody?
Exactly. I love it. I love this. Okay, so moving on to sort of the last set of questions here, and these are a little bit random, but I'm going to sort of move through them and we'll see what you give us. So the first question is, what is your favorite book and why?
What is my favorite book? I'm going to have to take it to a spiritual side. I would say the Bible is my favorite book, and the reason why I say that is, BIBLA stands for Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth, and there are a lot of inspirational quotes that I think that are wrapped around in the Bible that are applicable in today's time. And so, for me, I would say that is one constant that has always been a pillar in my life that, I draw strength from so that I can, speak and articulate and really care for the people that I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. Second question, and I know you're doing this all the time, but maybe you can get a little bit more specific and unique here. But what is the last random act of kindness that you did, and how did it make you feel?
I would say the last act of kindness I did was probably, I guess, giving someone a job referral. They were going for a government job, and they really needed, someone that was in the community that had a good reputation that could really vouch for the character. Again, kindness can, translate to many, many different things, but, that's, something. And again, we're feeding every Wednesday. Another thing I didn't really talk about is, we're very involved with, helping cancer patients as well, being that my father is dealing with terminal cancer. And so a lot of what we do outside of feeding the homeless is we select different people, and it's all like quietly, referral based, and different people who are dealing with chemotherapy. They're going through this tough time, right? And so a lot of times I find that, people who are dealing with this, their families are affected. So one thing that I did, I found out that there was this gentleman that his wife was dealing with cancer. So what I did was I told him to meet me up at a hotel, and I paid for him to have a spa day so he can relax, go home rejuvenated, so he can help his wife further. And so that was something that we did. And I just received a text message saying, he was grateful for the experience. And it's funny, this guy was 60-something years old, and he had never had a massage before. I didn't know that.
And he'll forever remember that and what you did for him.
Yeah. So it's fun, man. It's fun. It does, giving back could be a smile, could be a hug, could be a word of encouragement, but it's really fun.
I love it. Okay, two more questions. The next one is, you can only visit one more country in the world. Which one would it be and why?
One more country in the world. I would say that I would want to visit Israel, more for the spiritual side of things and the historic, aspect of it, and just really understanding the history of the country. I think that would be fascinating to me.
That'd be an amazing trip for sure.
Yeah. My father went, so, I was like, he just talked about how amazing it was. So it's definitely something that I have to put on my radar. Excellent.
And last question, where can people find you online?
Well, you can find me on Instagram. My handle is Hershel Drums, HERSHEL DRUMS. And on Facebook, Hershel Abram Music. So I definitely look forward to connecting with all of you guys, and look forward to reposting this podcast as well. Eric, you've been great, and just, like I said, a breath of fresh air as always through social media. And it's just been a pleasure to get to know you and be a part of everything you're doing.
Thank you, Hershel. And the feeling is mutual, and I really appreciate your time. And jumping on the call here today and having this conversation. And so thank you so much for calling in today.
Hey, thanks for having me, brother.